Okay, so definitely had a very rough work session, but I think I managed to survive. Quick note, I still do need to get the camera renderer. Well, not the camera renderer, but like to splice in a camera recording into the video with FFmpeg. But I didn't want that to stop me from doing what I need to do right now. So I was able, with the help of Nick from StereoKit, I was able to actually get rotations working. A lot of the problems I ran into were just pretty weird problems. Like logically, they weren't, like the problem wasn't with like the logic. It was with which parts can I rely on, and where am I making fuck-ups, or where can I expect to make fuck-ups, I think is the main thing. Where can I expect to make fuck-ups is the big thing. Because otherwise, I'll be so sure of something. It's like imagine you're rock climbing, but you have a whole bunch of like limbs, a whole bunch of them, right? And now imagine that they're not really giving you the best feedback, right? You if you're not focusing on them, you're kind of just relying on them blindly. So you dig one in to an area like right there, perfect, right? And then you're moving on to the next ones, and you're looking ahead like, oh, okay, I want to get there. And then keep trying, and you just keep fucking eating shit and getting nowhere, right? And so a lot of times you're just looking at the steps towards your goal as the culprit, but they're not. It's you thought you could trust a certain step or grip or whatever you want to call it, but you could not. And the thing in this case was I was using elapsed F instead of total F, which that's the difference between like a time for a frame and like how long the program's been running in seconds. So of course I wasn't going to see any behavior. I was scaling it down to basically nothing. So I might see a little bit of vibration, especially at low frame rate, but that's about it. But luckily, that wasn't the entire issue when I first reached out to Nick for help. So at least I didn't come off as like a total just idiot. So because they had to be transposed as well. So I learned that. I also learned another weird way to pass variables into materials. Very strange. I don't know what the limitations of it are, but I'm excited to find out where they are. So now we have this plank rotating because I thought, oh, this would be a really good way to show how the clipping works. I like it. Turned out pretty nice. Fiddled with it probably longer than I needed to. But it's nice to appreciate the rendering system and throw some time at it every once in a while. So, going from there, it was time to get this feature in that I kind of promised to get in. And that is being able to grab the reach cursor point for it to then become a backhanded stretch cursor, which is brilliant. Because before we were thinking we needed all these buttons to switch between them, etc. Or maybe even a menu. But we've really started to settle on a way to not have to do that, where instead you have gloves of some sort, and by just grabbing different parts of them or interacting with them in different ways, you'll bring yourself into these different modes. And then the big part of that as well is what you're going to be seeing is how these different degrees of freedom actually work. And so that would be a big part of the interaction and what drives the interaction. It won't be a bunch of arbitrary things well, we made a glove and we made the glove look cool, and then we put these weird buttons on it, and you push this button, makes this happen. No, it's very much driven by okay, how do these DOFs currently work? Let's throw them all on. And let's see how we can position them and orient them and do whatever we need to do to get them to all play nice and interchange. And it seems like it's actually relatively possible, because not only can we do this for the backhanded stretch cursor, but we can do this with the twist cursor. We can use that one for just the regular stretch cursor. So right there, we got 4 in 1. So pretty happy with that. So it was a matter of being able to grab it. And so a big thing I was running into was, old code that was heavily compromised given the current situation. And I'm coming back to it and I'm like, this just kind of needs to be recoded. And after kind of grappling with it for a while, writing down the laundry list of things that need to be done for it, I realized it was a bit more than I bargained for, or could be. So I might be skipping ahead here. I think it takes me a little while longer to realize that. But the laundry list did kind of help, because I was about to just tear in, but I'm like, I don't want to end up biting into a sandwich and then there's a piece of metal in it or whatever. I break my teeth on something, right? So writing out, just taking the time to write out okay, what actually be changed here, really helped. But I ended up just commenting out the whole section, which you'll see here in a bit. Yeah, because it turned out that hey, moving from this very absolute movement system to additive will actually introduce some complexities, and they're the sort of complexities that I don't have the patience for right now. And because it's not a high priority issue, it's something that we will return to. Which we already, were really needing to change this one in general, but it's a lot easier to set it aside to focus on the thing we've already dedicated time to. So I just commented it out, and we moved on up here, and we carried over the important components. So right now nothing is attached to the grip, and so we don't even need to do any state machine to be right now we're grabbing the reach cursor point or the twist cursor point or whatever. Or no, we're grabbing the world. Which I was about to set all that up. As you can see with that enum, maybe it's an enum and we're using a switch case. I'm like, okay, well, no. I know it's gonna just jump way out there. It's gonna be weird. It's not gonna be great. But just get this core thing in. And a bit of that was to rethink how I was interacting with that, because before I had an abstract this is just a spatial cursor, right? And we can switch between them, and when we switch between them, we're still referencing a spatial cursor, but it's it's different. But I was wait a minute, no, it can just be itself, because at this point we're not